Hi, everybody. My name is Jared Wade, and I am the account executive here at Yoko. And you are in for a treat because today is the first ever in the history of the evers, the very first ever Yoko Live. I have the pleasure of speaking to the CEO of Yoko Consulting, Chris Yoko. Chris, thanks, man. Appreciate you jumping on today.
I'm excited to do this with you. And I know we have serious stuff to talk about, but I have never received more accurate confirmation of my ADD than the fact that countdown timer is a full minute. It felt like an eternity. It should be 3 to 5 seconds, and then it should jump into the episode.
I remember going through like the setup process with you, and I was explaining like, here's what all the buttons do, and here's all the stuff that's on the back end, and you were like, yep, glad I'm not doing that because I'd be pressing all of the buttons. So,
oh, dude, we would already be in sound effect land. It would be a problem.
Well, it's going to be fun. I think this is going to be a fun conversation. If you've never joined us before, that's rightfully so because we've never.
I don't think they could have. Yeah, exactly.
If you're from the future and you've come back in time,
this is what you've decided to do. Tell us why this is the thing you're interested in.
There was one day when Cloudflare went down, and you're like, "That's the day I'm going back. That's when I'm going back is to Cloudflare down day." These are going to be some fun little episodes where I have the privilege of talking to Chris and possibly some other team members from the Yoko team to find out more about how we can support organizations and associations, nonprofits, how to give you a glimpse into how to improve. Like today, we're going to be talking about websites and, is it wise to invest money in building a new website, or are there simple things that you can do to enhance what you've already got? So, the title, Chris, that we've got for today is your site outdated or is it just misunderstood? And this was a conversation that you and I had previously about, where's something good that we can start with. So for those that don't know, Chris, can you give us like the 30-second overview of your experience in this industry?
30 seconds. I fell in love with computers very early. My grandmother introduced me to them. She got one whenever I was probably 6 or so. Had a ton of fun playing around with it. My folks got a computer for us around the time that we got dial-up internet, and I learned that you could host a site and connect with people from anywhere in the world, which now seems mundane and trivial, but at the time it was like you knew the people in your little town, and that was it. So the fact that I could talk to somebody who was in California or New York or Japan or whatever the case might be was amazing. And so I fell in love with this stuff. Played around with programming starting late elementary, early middle school. Have been doing it ever since, and then started the company officially in 2009 after being in both the agency and media spaces. And now we find ourselves here today.
That's really so. I love hearing journeys and I love hearing stories. And I would presume that over these multiple years, you've had a lot of conversations with organizations and leaders and technical teams. They have that speed bump, that uphill battle of, hey, do we need to, what's going on? Is it working for us? Is it not working for us? And I love that this is where you wanted to start conversations where, hey, there's a question that you have to ask yourself, which is, do we need to just reinvent it, or do we want to, maybe take a different approach to it? So can you talk to us a little bit about that the phrase analysis paralysis, I think, interweaves itself through a lot of conversations. And how do you approach that? And how does the team here at Yoko approach that?
That's 8 questions. All right, let's unpack it.
You answer that. I'm going to go grab a coffee. I'll come back.
I'll be back. No, I think analysis paralysis is the right thought to have right now, because you've been a part of some of these conversations as well. It's a place where between all the economic uncertainty, a lot of things are happening. They're not happening. It's on, it's off. A lot of what's going on with AI, especially in our world, is very exciting and confusing and bothersome to a lot of people. And I think if you want to use that one as good encapsulation of this analysis paralysis, it happens for different reasons. But right now, there's a ton of it because of AI, where I know you've heard me use this metaphor before, but there's a guy named Dan Carlin who does a great podcast called Hardcore History. I plug it everywhere I can. one of the things he talks about is how through most of history you could match two armies up against each other and they would have a chance against each other. And more recently, we're starting to build technology where like a warship in the US takes maybe 7 to 10 years to build. And does it make sense to continue building them if by the time it is built, that technology is already obsolete? As we've seen with like the stuff in the Ukraine, maybe they build a bunch of like Sea-Doo drones that cost a fraction of it, and you have 30 or 50 or however many of them, and they can take a destroyer down, and you sunk billions of dollars into something that was kind of worthless. And while the consequences are not nearly as severe for the folks that we're working with, a lot of people are wondering right now, like, should we be doing like a full redesign? Should we be overhauling our web presence or our digital presence, depending on the organization? And especially with a lot of the promises and kind of the hype going on in the world of AI, is it going to be obsolete by the time we get it built? And if it is, why would we bother investing our time and money into doing that? Why shouldn't we do something else entirely? And this is, I mean, the latest version of that type of thinking, right? I mean, it's happened before. A lot of people were like, we talked about my history with computers and stuff. There was a time whenever you had to convince people that they should have a website and that should be a thing that they consider. So, it's this kind of thinking is pretty pervasive and it goes through cycles.
So where do you think most organizations hit that speed bump and they just struggle getting over? Like, where in their technology growth, where in their growth or progression as an organization do they start to have that paralysis? Have you noticed a trend in orgs that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the size. Obviously, our favorite thing is it depends, right? It depends on a lot of things.
Yeah.
One of the things it depends on most, though, is kind of the size and complexity of the team. Because as this technology has evolved, I mean, a website used to be, you could write up some static HTML, put it on a page. I mean, you can still do that. But at one point, that was all you had to do. And yes, it was all novel and it was much harder to code it up than it is today. And there weren't templates and all that fun stuff. But it was much simpler. And so it was one problem to solve. Now complexity has continued to grow in this space, but the people who are responsible for it kind of have the same size teams for the most part, and their other job functions haven't gone away. So it's just there's more and more stuff that has to happen. And I mean, with any kind of specialization, right? You can be very broad and have a little bit of understanding of a lot of stuff, or you can go very deep and have a deep understanding and specialty in some area. It is very difficult to do both. And I would say probably at this point, impossible to do both very well. And so what I find is a lot of organizations tend to get stuck in that kind of analysis paralysis whenever they start to get into the unknown. And what's happened, especially, I mean, even over the last like 3 to 5 years or so, is the technology has evolved so quickly that people were like, hey, I've got my arms around it. I feel like an expert in this stuff. Yeah, it's probably time to update our website. It's been a while, technology's moved on. And then they realize how much technology has moved on and what's going on in terms of, SEO and AEO, what's going on in terms of accessibility and compliance, what's going on in terms of security, what's going on in terms of search, what's going on in terms of API integration, what can you do with data visualization? Like all of these things have become much more accessible, which is awesome. But now it's a whole lot more things for your mind to have to process. And if you've only got a team of, a handful of people that are meant to tackle all of this on their own, that can be really, really difficult and lead to a lot more trepidation because there's a lot more uncertainty. So I find that happens. That can usually be kind of a bottom up trigger for it. And then there's a lot of like kind of top down strategic ones as well, where it's more about alignment and kind of understanding what outcomes are we pursuing here, and is updating, overhauling, whatever the website, the best way to achieve those outcomes. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But that kind of strategic misalignment and misunderstanding is another big one from the top down.
Is there, that's really cool. So are there approaches?
It is cool. I'm glad we're talking about
it. Are there, well, I mean, I want to be direct with the question, but I also want to be, do it, just go for it. Well, I want to know, like, if there are, my hope and my goal for these little micro episodes, if you will, is that they provide applicational elements that somebody who's watching can kind of walk away and go, ooh, hey, here's some little things that I can do. Here are some small steps forward. And I know that that's something that you desire and the rest of the team as we start to talk to different people as well. that's always been kind of a focus and a goal for prepping these has been, hey, we want people to watch, but then we want them to walk away with value. We want them to walk away
We're
feeling
not doing this just
empowered.
for entertainment value. That's something.
Not yet. Let's wait till like episode 6, and then we'll get like
Okay, that makes sense.
theme
Yeah.
song. So like that's what I'm wondering now is like, are there small actionable steps? Are there is there an easy, maybe easy is the wrong word, but a forward momentum that you can encourage for those organizations that are maybe stuck in that slight paralysis state?
I mean, yes, obviously the answer would depend on each individual, but like the bite-sized pieces to do something, not to do nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's boring advice because it's right. And the most correct advice is usually very boring, but a lot of it is like, what outcomes are you trying to achieve as an organization? And then kind of work down from there in full alignment and figure out like, okay, of these 20 things that you could jump into, pick the 1 or 2 that you think are going to be most meaningful in achieving that outcome and start to play around with those things, test them. Obviously at the higher level where there is that greater level of analysis paralysis, there are kind of broader strategies on how to go about tackling some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the smaller level, I mean, even just being able to jump in and like A/B testing content to see how you rank in search. That's a thing people have done for years. For some reason, it seems like a very novel idea to a lot of people we talk about for AI search. Hey, how do you show up in AI recommendations? Well, we haven't checked. There's tons of great tools out there you can use, or you could just manually ask a lot of these tools. A lot of our clients, what we encourage them to do is to have their own benchmarking prompts. Obviously, I think the word stochastic, but they're not deterministic systems. So they're going to give you a different answer every time. So just using the same benchmark prompts aren't always going to give you the same answers. But if you repeat them over time, you can see general trends. So being able to ask questions about maybe your industry, your organization, et cetera, and seeing what kind of things it answers. And then always having some follow-up prompts about like, what are your sources, et cetera. And being able to even just A/B test things month to month that way can take you an hour or so a month and provide pretty massive results depending on what kind of momentum and tools you already have built into your foundation.
It sounds like a lot of the, at least the key element that you're trying to get across is like, listen to your audience in a certain vein of, because that's the easiest approach that you can take is, hey, if your audience is responding well to whatever it is you might be doing, then continue down that path. But if they're not responding well, then you might want to, take a different approach and go a different direction. Is the audience kind of the pivotal element in this process?
I mean, assuming most organizations are serving an audience of some sort. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important because you did mention seeing how they're responding, not just what they're saying. So, a lot of our clients and I think organizations will over-index on active or verbal feedback they receive or written feedback, whatever the case might be, not being aware that, if you don't look at your analytics, that could be less than 1% of your user base is maybe complaining about a thing that 99% love. And so if you continue to move in the direction of that very vocal minority, you could be very off-putting to the vast majority of your audience and never realize it. So whenever we say listen to your audience, we don't mean just in terms of like actual literal listening to them in surveys and stuff, but more figuratively listen to how they are reacting, how they, react to different market changes, different communication changes, et cetera. We've got a plethora of analytics that enable you to do that.
Nice. Well, that kind of leads me into asking about, I think, the thing that everybody's talking about right now, which is AI. And there's a lot of questions about AI. And hey, if the website isn't working, let's just put AI into it, and then it's going to make everything work the way it's supposed to.
Genie in a bottle.
Exactly. Do you have? I mean, I know that you're waist deep, if not neck deep, maybe even like above your head deep into all of the AI stuff. Are there any platforms that are better or worse prepared for features in terms of CMS, CRM, marketing automation, things of that nature that you can speak on?
Yeah. I mean, the good news is if you look at the AI landscape, I mean, there has never been a technology that's gone from novelty to commodity as quickly as AI has gotten plugged in to so many things. So, I mean, the good news is, I mean, in the same way that years ago, even 5 years ago, there was a stark difference between a lot of the content management systems. Certain ones had certain strengths. This might be better for enterprise. This one might be better for its ease of use and simplicity. This one might be easier because it's more minimalistic. This one might have a lot of complex features. But as the market responds to these things, you kind of notice a kind of pattern of like convergent evolution in all of these platforms. So a lot of them at a very base level do a lot of the same things. I'm a big fan of open source technology for a lot of reasons, but I would say I think some of the platforms that are better positioned for these are the ones with the lion's share of the market, simply because they have the greatest, one, communities that are naturally incentivized to help plug into these things. And for an open source platform, that means there's a lot more developers and stuff working on it. So for something like WordPress, there's a lot more people actively working on integrating AI in a lot of different ways. Whereas for something like a Salesforce or a HubSpot, they just have such deep pockets and such, vast war chests that they can throw a ton at it because they have, again, so many customers who are paying for these platforms that they're really heavily incentivized to figure out how to shoehorn AI in ways that are really meaningful for their audiences. I don't like that it is a little bit more indicative of like a winner take all perpetuation. But in terms of like where you think about going and where you spend your money for your organization, I would say, those platforms that do have, unless you have a really niche use case where it's like, nope, I got to use a platform like this because it's the only one that does X, Y, or Z the way that I need it to. Being able to use some of those broader platforms with deeper, more committed communities will probably allow you to just benefit from the mistakes of others, right? So a question we'll get a lot is like, hey, why should we use WordPress instead of Drupal or Kaneko or .Danduke or like whatever? There's a plethora of content management systems out there.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I really like WordPress is it has evolved, but it's also got a community of users that are millions and millions and millions of users. So even if you don't use any of these cutting edge features, you get the kind of evolutionary advantage of learning from everyone else's mistakes. So other people will try these plugins and use them and fail, and some will succeed, and you'll get to kind of pick the best in breed for whenever you're ready to adopt those kind of things. So I think that if you want to be a more passive consumer and you don't want to necessarily be on that like cutting edge or early adopter curve, you want stability for your organization, but you don't want to lag too far behind on these tools, those can be like kind of a useful filter for you, just to make sure you're getting the stuff that has really good practical applications and some good stability without necessarily having to do all that rigorous testing and integration and trial and error on your own.
Nice. All right, so we're coming up on the end of our time. I want to be respectful of, you got a lot on your plate. I've got all kinds of things going on. The world has things happening. We're still spinning around this glorious sun. I'd like to actually, this is episode 1, but I still want to do something that's like, I wonder if I can get every episode to have this, but it's like, it's like the modified Letterman top 10, but like your top 3. Like what would be your top 3 suggestions or encouragement, your top 3 things that you want people to, digest and walk away with when they're thinking about that question, which is, hey, do I need to redo the website or do I just need to make some modifications? Do you have your top 3?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, so obviously like we have conversations with people about this all the time. So there's a lot of that analysis paralysis right now because of all the reasons we had talked about. Ultimately, I think if you're in one of these organizations, you can't not continue to make progress. So you're going to have to do it one way or another. And kind of the 3 ways that I usually suggest people consider doing it is like, 1, you can be scared and like do it anyway. So just do it scared. And you can only operate off of what you know. Like there's a ton of that AI hype right now where it's, I think, it was a few months ago now, but like Salesforce and Meta and all these companies were like, we're never hiring a developer again because AI is going to be so good. And then a bunch of journalists all were like, well, you have tons of open developer positions on your careers page right now. So it seems like maybe it's a little bit of a lie. But you can only operate and you can only lead so much. So, I mean, I always think I play like beer league hockey. So one of the things people always say is go where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And that works as long as you're 1 to 2 steps ahead of the play. I mean, same with any sport. But if you are like, oh, I played against this team a lot. I mean, even if you were like a safety in football or something, and you go, I know he's probably going to pass to this receiver over here. So I'm going to run out of here because I think he's going to go there. And by doing so, you take yourself out of position, and now this guy's open. Like being too far ahead also puts you out of position. Like pets.com with the .com bubble, like the right idea. Chewy.com is killing it right now. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the same idea. Just the timing was a little bit off. You can be too far ahead and kind of too prescient. So whenever we're talking about doing it scared, it's don't do nothing. Don't try to do everything and lean into the future and think you can predict what's going to happen. Just operate on what you can work on right now. Be mindful of it, but lean in and do it. So I would say that's one, is just lean in, know you're going to have to do it scared, and that the situation might change, and that change is, I mean, it has been a constant, but it will be a more frequent and faster happening constant moving forward. Another option, and there's a lot of organizations we've seen who are picking this option, is to not do everything all at once, but to just do a little. So you can't halt progress, and you don't want to fall into that like false dichotomy of all or nothing, where it's like, oh, we got to blow this thing up and then we got to do it all over again. You can do little bits. So as we had talked about earlier in this conversation, thinking about, hey, what is our strategic vision? Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to achieve? And what are maybe the few little things that we can do that are really incremental in helping to achieve those outcomes, or in future proofing our, because this could be our digital presence as a whole. So thinking about, instead of replatforming everything, do you replatform one thing? Or can you start to make things a little bit more modular? Or can you layer in security, or think a little bit more about accessibility, especially if compliance is a thing that you're worried about? So being able to kind of pick those small, discrete elements and make marked improvements on those can be really meaningful, and they add up, especially because if you do those things right, you do not have to redo them later. If you update your content and make it better, you can retain that content regardless of what platform you move to. If you add in alt text and you improve your content, like those are things that you can port over to a new version regardless of your platform. And then the last one that I've encouraged more organizations to try out, and I feel like, and I don't want to paint with like a generational brush, but I feel like younger employees tend to be more eager to try this than ones who have been around a little while. But I don't remember. Do you remember who not the startup person, maybe it was like IBM or something. They were talking about startups. They said, someone's going to eat our lunch. It may as well be us. And that was how they built. Maybe it was like the Google 20%. I don't remember where the quote came from, but I liked the quote itself. And so the idea is, rather than trying to replace or rebuild what you already have with all the bells and whistles that are already attached to it, maybe you can just do like a little skunkworks build of like, hey, could we start to build our own MVP on the side, not mess with any of our existing infrastructure, try to build out something new and see what's possible with the latest and greatest tools. What can we build out? And what does that look like in terms of like cost versus what percentage of capabilities or features or requirements it has that our, existing system has. And, by building that out, you realize, hey, we can get to 60% of the functionality we have now for 20% of the cost or something. And then, obviously it's up to you to kind of dive into figuring out how much of the 80-20 rule is going to apply to you, the last 20%, really 80% of the effort, or does, 50, 60, 70% really get you a lot of the way. But you'll also learn a ton by going through that process, and you can roll those lessons into the primary platform if that's appropriate as well. So it kind of gives you a couple different ways to go about doing it, and different budgetary levels too. I mean, you can start with stuff that is literally a few hours of effort a month, all the way up to obviously, proceeding with a big rebuild or something, and just being really mindful of what the future state of technology might look like.
I feel like on our next episode, we should just both wear hockey jerseys. I know that we both have those.
Oh, absolutely.
So it feels like it's gonna fit.
The question will be like, do we go with like NHL teams? Do we go with like Olympic teams? I did like a charity hockey game. So we've got like a bunch of these like Swedish looking like charity hockey jerseys. I'm going to wear one of those. Actually, I've talked myself into it.
I'm going to wear whatever I've got a few. So I'll pick one out that complements. That's what I'm going to do, is I'll have a selection that I can just choose from once we get into the same green room together. So Chris, thanks, man. We went a little bit long. it's going to happen because there's a lot of good information that you are sending out. I think we were originally like targeting, we're like, oh yeah, we'll shoot for like 12, maybe 15 minutes or so. And then as we got going, I was like, man, no, there's just good information that I think everybody needs to hear. So
also other team members on our team who are far more concise than I. Like I'll ramble around to get to the point, but other one of our team members will be like, yeah, here's the answer in a discrete couple of sentences, and there you go.
That's okay. It's finding the balance. And I'm actually really excited to have some of the other team members come out and talk about their passions and about, because that's the really cool thing about this organization, about Yoko, is that we have the right people in the right positions doing the right thing for the right reason. And it's so cool to kind of see all of that passion come through and everything that they're doing, whether it's project management or development or design, accessibility. It's just all over the place. And it's refreshing, and it's really, really fun and really great to see that. So I think you built a fantastic team, and I know that you're excited to continue to support organizations. And I'm going to speak for you, and I'm going to speak for everybody and let everyone know that's watching right now to reach out and let us know how we can help. So that's why we're here to do is to help and to support and to help you continue to do better things in the world. So Chris, anything you want to throw out there here at the very tail end?
No, you nailed it, man. I mean, that's why we do what we do. Not a lot of people think about it with this lens, but the digital world, the little windows we look through, more people will look at your website than will likely do anything else in terms of engagement with the organization. And we have seen firsthand like the impact that can have whenever it is a positive interaction and something where your audience understands and is able to navigate to the problem they're trying to solve and how it intersects with the impact you're trying to have, and then the kind of connections and impact that can make on people's lives. And maybe that'll be an episode where you can just kind of tell some stories about that kind of stuff, because that's the stuff that really lights me up. I know it lights a lot of the folks on our team up because this stuff does make a real impact, and we are very excited to support the organizations we support.
Yeah, I love that. I think that'd be fantastic to get a few different people. So if you're watching this and you're not watching it live, you're watching the recorded version, it's hosted somewhere on the interwebs. Feel free, reach out, let us know. You can you can contact us through yokoco.com/contact. There'll be a QR code at the very end that you can reach out to, or just leave a comment in the platform that you're watching this on, YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. Leave a comment down there, and we'll be happy to reach back out to you. Other than that, we will be back for the next episode, probably in the next week or two, and it's coming up on Christmas time, so we'll have all kinds of fun things. The holidays are in full swing. I jumped to Christmas, but we still got to get through Thanksgiving. I don't want to jump over Thanksgiving, but I just did, and I feel bad about that. I'm mad.
It's okay. I thought you were saying our next episode was going to be on Christmas, and I was like, "Whoa, I don't know if that's going to be." See how the children.
Hey, family, is it okay if I just do something real quick on Christmas Day?
The world urgently needs website advice.
Yes. All right, Chris, we're going to get out of here. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
And everybody out there, take care. Bye.
Yep. See you.